It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
Welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. Job numbers, pretty good job numbers. 187,000 jobs created in the month of August. That is up from the 170 that was expected. Unemployment rose 3.8%. You go, oh, sky falling. No. 750,000 people back into the workforce. People coming out looking for jobs. Good thing. Labor participation back up to where it was pre-pandemic levels. We're moving in the right direction, folks. Things are going well. Still a lot of work to do. Lots of work to do. But heading in the right direction. And this, much to the chagrin of the folks on the extreme right who have been, pining for recession, have been pining for chaos, for more pain and suffering for working people. And I got to tell you, the reality of this administration has been doing just about everything I could have asked them to do on the employment front. They're literally killing it. And this is one of those moments where you go, give them credit where credit is due. Today, for instance, another thing that I think is important. They've come forth and said that we need to have better regulation in our nursing care facilities. They are going to set up the first nationwide minimum standards situation for nursing homes across the country. Because I was reading this editorial at the USA Today. They said, over the first 90 days of this year, only 141 of the nation's nearly 15,000 skilled nursing facilities met the minimum requirement for registered nurses and certified aid standards. Just 141 out of 15,000. Now, what we've allowed to happen to our nursing home system is, in my view, mostly criminal. We've privatized most of it. Most of the county homes that we used to have, that we used to run, we've hocked off for pennies. And, you get these people who come in and how can I make money off of it? And how they make money off of it, they cut standards. They cut staff. They cut corners. They cut care. They smash as many people as they can into these facilities. I got to tell you, it's time that we start putting some of these minimum standards in place, and I'm glad that the administration has done it. Now, as I've been saying, look, I think the administration's been killing it. The things that they've been coming out with, just fantastic on the labor front. We've talked about speeding up union elections. We've talked about the NLRB and the stuff that they've done. We talked about the overtime threshold that they've asked to move up. Lots of things moving and pointing and driving us in a good, strong direction. And I think I've been saying that. I think I've been saying that and giving this administration as much credit as they've earned. I'm not a hero worship person. And I think Democrats had better stop with the hero worship. Biden's doing his job, and he's doing a darn good job of it. And you give him credit when they do a good job. But you also got to hold them accountable when they don't. And thus far, the Biden administration is doing a good job, worthy of adulation, worthy of respect, worthy of praise. And they get that. And the reason I bring this up is yesterday I started a segment off with a headline about Biden not taking evidently Biden's now taking smaller steps to get into Air Force One. And this has been a theme of the media for a very long time. And I said, look, why not just write the stories and Joe Biden's old? And immediately my email is full of people who are, you're attacking him. No. I am not attacking Joe Biden. I'm simply saying what is true. Joe's old. Joe struggles with with speaking. That doesn't mean his policies are bad. It doesn't mean I'm not going to vote for him. I'm voting for the policies. But I got all this stuff. You're part of the circular firing squad. You're stabbing him in the back, ankle biters. You name it. I got every attack that you could come up with. And I'm a couple of the people I said, did you hear what I said? Were you listening? It was an indictment of our media structure for really pushing this narrative that Biden can't do the job. I think he can. And I think he's doing a darn good job of it, surrounding himself with, oddly enough, the very best people who are doing a very good job, especially at the NLRB and the Department of Labor. Now, that said, I find it interesting that we can't talk about the fact that he's got some issues come election time. The fact that we can't talk about that without everyone getting all bunched up tells me we got problems. And as I've said, I think he's doing a fantastic job. I'll put his policies against what the Republicans have come out with. I'll put up the job creation. I'll put up the labor standards. I'll put up especially this most recent stuff. I'll put all this up: the infrastructure bill, the Inflation Reduction Act, the investments in climate stuff. I'll put all that up on the table against anything the Republicans have, because they've got nothing. And the reason I say they've got nothing is in Michigan, and this is another thing: Democrats doing the work that they should be doing, not hero worship. Just doing their jobs, doing what we've sent them into office to do, and demanding that they do. Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, has a proposal to pay folks paid leave, paid family leave. So if you have, a birth of a child, you have a sickness, you need to take care of a loved one who's sick, you get a little paid time off to help deal with life's problems. Whatever it is, you're sick, a kid's sick, whatever. Republicans in Michigan are messaging around the idea that this proposal is just summer break for adults. And you go, no, anybody who's had to take care of a loved one, and I've had to take care of sick family members, anyone who's been sick themselves, been there myself, sick kids, whatever. You need that time. That is a family value. That is a working class issue. Something most certainly working people should be behind. But the Republicans see it as, it's just summer break for adults. It tells you what they think of working people. It tells you what they think of us. I mean, they're honest. Give them credit. They're at least honest. Fact of the matter is, they're doing everything they can do to interject themselves into our lives while telling us that they want freedom. And I look at Texas, for instance. There are a number of towns in Texas who are on the abortion front. They're going to start this. It's mind-blowing, but it was predictable. And we had talked about this right when Roe was overturned, all of the ways that Republicans were going to put themselves in the middle of your life and inconvenience you just because you might be getting an abortion. And there have been towns in Texas that have passed ordinances that going to stop you on the highway. You could be going on a highway somewhere to an airport or a train station. So it's even beyond papers, please. It's a pregnancy test, please. You might not be able to leave the state until you take a pregnancy test. So when I look at the reality of where we are, the policies that are being put forth, because again, understand, I am not a hero worship person. I didn't have all that much faith in Robert Mueller because that didn't happen. Merrick Garland is not a savior. Obama wasn't a savior. I liked Obama. I liked his policies on a certain front. He left a lot on the table. There was a lot that could have been done, should have been done, I wish would have been done. But I never bought to the hero worship. And I'm not going to do that for Joe Biden. This is the kind of stuff that drives me crazy. We can criticize our elected leaders when they're wrong. We give them praise when they do what they're supposed to. This isn't that hard to figure out. So for all the people who sent me emails, I appreciate the thoughts. I do. I get your defensive, but this is one of those things that gets us attacked quite often. Be honest about the situation. Biden's not a great public speaker, but you know what he is? He's a great policy guy. The stuff that he's putting forth, the stuff they're dropping out, killing it. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Going to take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around.
Looking at Joe Biden, Donald Trump's official mugshot.
And now the Biden administration apparently cracking down on ceiling fans.
We're going to use force and we're going to leave them stone cold dead.
Vivek, we got to get back to the Trump chase here, but
does President Biden want to limit Americans to 2 beers a week?
Be integrated with their neighbors. I have an exact quote. You want me to read it?
That's actually... The mugshot has breathed new life into the Trump campaign and broadened his appeal to black Americans.
I never heard the words mugshot. Didn't teach me that at the Wharton School of Finance.
He had like this awkward smile whenever he finished. You know, it was like he didn't know what he should do, like taking his 5th grade picture.
But it's great to get fired because it keeps you from being a truly horrible person. I mean, we're all sort of horrible people because we're people.
But Tim Scott's a good man, and so is, I think, Vikic. I think that's how you pronounce it.
It's a handsome mugshot. My wife says he looks fierce. He looks hard.
And getting fired reminds you that, no, you're just like everybody else. You're kind of a ridiculous person, and in the end, you'll die alone and terrified like every other human being from the beginning of time, and like you're just like everybody else, and stop that.
And as one black lady I spoke with earlier today here in New Orleans said, Trump's a gangster.
And he was listed at 6'3", 215 pounds, but some aren't buying that.
We didn't elect a Pilates instructor.
The Trump mugshot's like the new Che Guevara t-shirt.
At that mugshot now, it's been a revenue booster. It's been epic.
Rhinos got to go!
Marjorie Taylor Greene can use my MyPillow code, Loomer at MyPillow, so that she can get herself a nice pillow for her knees to place under Kevin McCarthy's desk.
Men need to be humiliated fairly regularly to keep their souls pure. Otherwise, they become absolutely unbearable.
And I say this with a unblemished record of heterosexuality. He looks good. And he looks hard.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So today, the administration announced $15.5 billion in investment that's going to help transition our auto manufacturing into electric vehicle factories, moving those jobs from one to the other. This is important stuff, but it's good policy. That to me is what we should be doing, without question. Let's quick go to the phones. Got Kurt in Akron on line 1. Kurt, how are you?
Hey, good evening and happy Labor Day to you, Rick. You deserve it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And hey, another one that was a couple weeks ago that a lot of people probably don't know is Mingo County, West Virginia. The Biden administration made it possible for alternative energy source factories to be made to replace the coal mines that have been devastated down there for decades.
Yeah. No, I mean, the amount of investment that's going into areas that hate him is truly impressive. And for him, it's not about, did you vote for me, or it's about doing what's in the best interest of the country. And I give him credit for that.
It's about what's doing right for the people who need it the most is what it comes down to. But, you know, I was listening to my archives today, and I was listening to FDR, and he said something, and it can kind of apply to Biden, President Biden, I think. And that is, President Roosevelt said that between 1913 and 1921, he was close enough to world affairs that he learned what was to be. How does he say it? Between 1913 and 1921, he was close enough to world affairs to learn what to do, but more importantly, he learned what not to do. And what I'm getting at is Joe Biden, what you're talking about with his policy record and everything, take the Senate step aside, but just the fact that between 2009 and 2017, he was close enough to world affairs that he learned what to do, but again, more importantly, what not to do when it comes to how he governs.
Yeah.
So we're actually in a good position in the sense that he was a vice president for 8 years, and he was the last person to always leave the room after a policy meeting with Barack Obama. So what I'm getting at is he had a lot of not really on-the-job training, but he had a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's
exposure.
Late
He's seen a lot of stuff.
He's seen a lot of stuff to the point where he stutters and he comes off as, I don't want to say an idiot to some people, but the fact that he stutters and he can't get it out, like you said, he's not the greatest speaker in the world. He's not a stupid man. That's what people don't get. I've heard people call him geriatric Joe and some derogatory statements beyond that. But my question to the age thing, too, is if Joe Biden's going to be 81 and you were railing, not you, but people who voted against him were railing against him for being 78, why are you not making a big deal about Donald Trump being 78?
Shh. You're not allowed to say that.
Oh, I'm not?
No. Shh.
It's because
you're pointing out the hypocrisy, and you can't do that.
Oh, no. Oh, also, another thing I heard today. Remember when President Reagan said, well, it's morning in America again, back in 1984?
Yeah.
Do you remember what the statistics were for that morning in America?
Well, we had high unemployment and high inflation, as I remember it, because I lived through it.
We had 4% inflation and 7% unemployment. Joe Biden should be winning 49 out of 50 states, maybe losing Wyoming, which is the most conservative state in the country next year, given the record of what he's got versus what Ronald Reagan had 40 years ago.
Yep.
Just saying, people, history, just, but,
go.
Ron DeSantis and all those guys don't want you to know about that.
There you go. Good stuff, Kurt. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
No, I mean, Kurt's spot on. I mean, the reality is if you use the same metrics, as I said, Biden's killing it. The difference is, and I talked about this yesterday a bit, Biden's had a ton of accomplishments. Just not doing a great job, getting it out there, letting people know, hey, look what I've done. And this is where I said from the beginning, there should be 20-foot statues all over the place of that stupid thing that they were putting on gas pumps. Biden did that. Going, yeah, look, Biden did that. Job numbers, unemployment's good. The economy's moving in the right direction. We got all of these policy things that are happening, all this infrastructure, all this manufacturing. Yeah, did that. Take credit for it. Blow your own horn. Let's go to line 2. We got Alice on line 2. Alice, how are you today?
Insane as usual.
What's on your mind?
I knew what you meant last night. I did catch the beginning of the show, and then I was on a cat rescue mission, which fell through, but I knew what you meant.
All right, that's all I did. Because I got to tell you, I got so much response that I'm like, did I explain myself wrong? What was I off? And I actually went back and listened to it again, and I'm going, no, I said what I wanted to say. The media's beating up on poor Joe. Just write the story. Say he's old. Get past it, and let's talk about the work that he's actually doing.
Yeah, apparently some people weren't paying close attention to what you said. They just caught the end. And the other thing I wanted to comment on was I did read that story in the Washington Post about the town passing the ordinances, and I was like, what the hell are they doing? Is this not against federal law about, isn't there something in there about moving freely from state to state, and moving on the highways easily and whatnot? Am I just dreaming this?
Well, state to state you can go through, but town to town, that's a whole other story. They're trying to get you. They're trying to stop you on every road. They're going to shut down any underground railroad before you even get on the train.
Oh, I know. And then they where they quoted the one council member saying she was a Jesus lover. I thought, you know what? I am so tired of you people and your Jesus lovers and all this. And I'm a good God-fearing Christian, and they're the worst people on the planet. It's just ridiculous. And happy Labor Day.
Thanks, Alice. No, look, the reality is I want her to be a Jesus lover. I do. I actually do. Because he believed in feeding people and clothing people and all of those things that they don't want to do. If you're such a hyper-Christian, hyper-religious, and not even Christian, if you're hyper-religious, shouldn't that be where you're going? Instead of forcing people to have children that they can't afford, maybe figure out how to help them? Instead of this kind of stuff, it's very conservative. Bring on the Christian Sharia law. I had someone yell at me for that as well. The Christians don't want Sharia law. You go, yeah, have you noticed? They want to plaster their rules all over the place that they don't remember. I mean, that's the amazing part. And I always think about the one pastor I had on the show. It's got to be, it was back during the Obama years. James David Manning was his name. He came on the show because he was calling, Barack Obama homosexual and all kinds of stuff. Very, very Christian, And I asked him about those 10 rules, especially the one about bearing false witness, since, he was making some pretty, fantastical claims that I don't know how he could prove other than, he believed. And I love that about my believer friends. But he was hell bent on, we got to plaster those rules all over the place and force people into obeying them. And when I asked him, can you tell me what those rules are? He didn't know. He told me he would read it to me out of the book. And I said, no, I want them in your own words. Not in any particular order. Start in the middle, work yourself at the top, And he wouldn't. He absolutely wouldn't. And this is my problem with that crowd. They want to impose their things on everyone else, but not quite so much for themselves. And that's my problem in all of this. I know the wealthy are going to get whatever they want, whatever health care, whatever reproductive care, whatever they want, they get. It's the poor and the working class that get screwed. We've seen this over and over again. This is not new. There's nothing new here. You look at history, this is what it is. And I go back to what Kurt said a second ago. They're beating up on Biden, for being Sleepy Joe and, geriatric Joe, but somehow, he's this super mastermind who's doing all of this stuff, secretly against Trump. He's masterminding all of the indictments. He's at masterminding, just this genius, but he's doing it while he's sleeping, which is twisted. I don't know how you can I don't know how you keep both those thoughts at the same time and then justify it. I just don't. But it is what it is. Another story, another quick bit before we take a break here. Evidently, U.S. oil production has risen to almost 13 million barrels a day. It's the highest since February of 2020. What's important about that is that's before the pandemic. Now, as I've said for a long time, you've got people go, Joe Biden, you killed the Keystone Pipeline. No, Joe Biden didn't do anything to the Keystone Pipeline. Keystone Pipeline is working just fine, thank you very much. And it's doing everything it was built to do, and it's doing it the way it's supposed to. It's the XL pipeline, the Keystone XL that was killed. That was never going to help us. It was never going to come here. It was never going to do anything for our needs. But this story that we're now back to pre-pandemic output is interesting in that finally the oil companies are ramping up production. I've said for a very long time, we're getting screwed at the pump, not because of Biden, but because of corporate America, because of the collusion, because of the not wanting to produce more. Because, hey, they were happy. If you listen to the earnings call, they were thrilled where the production was and the price of oil was because they're raking in massive profits. They don't care about you or your family. And then the easy scapegoat was, well, look what Joe Biden did. He killed the Keystone XL pipeline, which was never going to help us, ever. But don't let facts get in the way of reality, because it ruins a good narrative. Don't let that happen. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I'm going to take a quick break. More on the education assault. This story blows my mind, but again, not surprising. Stick around. Right back after this.
I've been driving buses for 5 years, and my day-to-day routine is I wake up a little earlier than most people. I get on a bus, I go out, I pick up some students and make sure they get to school nice and safe. Here in Fairbanks, Alaska, that can be a challenge because of the winter weather and the icy roads. But I love the job. So the Teamsters are great. They provide us a lot of protections. They've always taken care of their people, made sure that our jobs were secure. We didn't have to worry about whether or not we'd have a job from day to day.
And that's amazing because before we'd be working 4, 6, 8 hours a day and only earning minimum wage was real difficult to make a living. Then the Teamsters pushed a law so we make something we can live off of and not have to have a second job. What absolutely gives me peace of mind, the union membership allows me to focus on this job without having to worry about whether or not my family is going to be taken care of. I'm Andrew Case, and I'm proud to be Teamsters Local 959.
Before we close the program, we want to take a moment to thank our viewers and to share a little bit about why we do what we do. At The Rick Smith Show, we believe that media today is almost entirely controlled by corporate greed. So we have now 24-hour news channels. But instead of 24 hours of news, what we get is 1 hour repeated 24 times, and with tons of commercials creating obscene amounts of profits. Information once presented as a public service has now become a private commodity. So when lies make money, lies are what we get. We get a corporate-controlled rage machine feeding us anger and hate, trying to convince us that our problems are right-left or red-blue, when they are and always have been up-down, the wealthiest 1% versus the rest of us. Our goal is to be an alternative to that machine, not as a news show with a fancy journalist out front, but as a talk show run by a union truck driver and a team of working-class heroes just like you. Everything we do, both what we get right and what we get wrong, is dedicated to advancing the interests of America's working families. No corporate ad buys, no think tanks, no focus groups, no talking points. We are media by working people for working people. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.